Ave Maria in the Afternoon is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Welcome to Ave Maria in the Afternoon, examining the world through the lens of faith from the heart of the Church to help us navigate the culture. Here's Dr. Marcus Peter.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on this hour of Ave Maria in the Afternoon. I'm Marcus Peter. I want to begin this hour by congratulating yet another great EWTN radio partner, celebrating 10 years with us. That's KFUZ 103.3 FM. They serve the Clarkston, Washington area, and we want to say congratulations and our heartfelt prayers and jubilations to John Fazari and his team at Clarkston Catholic Radio from your friends here at EWTN. Now, we will open this hour by speaking with Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President and Editorial Director of EWTN News, and we're talking about, as usual, church news, current events in light of church teaching. We're going to open with this particular piece of news that I am actually rather thrilled about, and it has to do with Pope Leo declaring an official miracle in Rhode Island. Dr. Juan Sanchez Esteban exhausted his medical skills for a newborn in dire condition, and so what he did was he said a prayer, and the prayer was said to Don Salvador Valera Parra, and a healing occurred. We will explore this in greater detail because it certainly looks like God has a plan for the United States of America. I don't want to overplay this hand, but I want to take a look at what's going on. We are seeing a small uptick in especially the younger millennial and Gen Z generations in reclaiming a traditional Orthodox expression of the faith in the U.S. So yes, we're hemorrhaging numbers in some ways, but in certain pockets there is an inflow. Secondly, we are seeing miracles being declared. This might be the first recorded miracle in Rhode Island. Third, most importantly, as we all know, we have the first American Pope, Pope Leo XIV, who grew up in Illinois. So all of this is most probably God calling America to wake up to a spiritual awakening. We go on from there to speak with my friend Steve Ray. Steve Ray is finally able to, and is definitely wanting to, take trips to the Holy Land again. And so pilgrimages to the Holy Land are now open. We're going to talk about the biblical significance of the Holy Land, the Jewish people, the safety of returning to these pilgrimage areas, and what they can do for our faith, and how we as Catholics ought to think about, reverence, and pray for, especially, the Holy Land and Israeli people. All this after the headlines.
Thank you, Marcus, and good afternoon, everyone. This is your Ave Maria Radio News for Thursday, July 24th. It's the Feast of St. Charbel. And today's news is brought to you by the Ave Maria family of funds. Learn more at AveMariaFunds.com. A second court is blocking President Trump's executive order that would limit birthright citizenship. In a 2-1 ruling Wednesday, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals found a coalition of Democratic-led states is entitled to a nationwide injunction preventing the order from going into effect. This comes after a federal judge in New Hampshire blocked the order earlier this month. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court issued a ruling last month limiting the ability of judges to issue nationwide injunctions blocking presidential policies. The Justice Department's investigation into Obama administration officials in the 2016 election has escalated. The DOJ announced it was launching a strike force to look into the matter. The White House says former President Obama tried to sabotage President Trump and claimed they suppressed evidence that showed there were no collusion between Trump and Russia. Today is National Cousins Day. Even if you're not related by blood, there tends to be some people in life you're just closer than others, and sometimes we refer to them as cousins. Today is also National Tequila Day, a drink that got its start in the 16th century, and these days is often shared among cousins. Just remember to always drink responsibly, and never drink and drive. And WWE superstar Hulk Hogan has died. Hogan reportedly suffered cardiac arrest, and his manager says he died at his home in Clearwater, Florida, surrounded by family. Hogan was a 12-time World Wrestling Champion and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. Last year, Hogan appeared at the Republican National Convention to campaign for President Trump. He was 71. From the Ave Maria Radio.net news desk, I'm Dan McGraw.
Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. Joining me as he does every Thursday so generously is our friend Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President, Editorial Director of EWTN News. Matthew, thank you very much for joining us once again. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, and it's not just generous at all on my part. It's a privilege to be here. I mean that.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's as much a privilege for us to hear from you and to learn from your insight. And I want to start with a bit of happy news about the miracle in Rhode Island. That feels like the title of a good movie.
The Miracle of Rhode Island, yes. And the question, what's interesting, I've been asked this question about, is this the first certified miracle in the history of Rhode Island? And I hope if your listeners are there and they know better than I do, feel free to weigh in. But as far as I know, this is the first certified miracle to take place in Rhode Island, although I'm sure many... As I always say, miracles are happening all around us. We just don't always necessarily see them.
Right.
But in this case, you're absolutely right. This is some remarkable news. It actually was first announced some weeks back with the declaration by the Dicastery for the Causes of Saints that there would be a group of some 200 causes of beatification and canonization approved in the middle of June by Pope Leo. And it includes a group of martyrs of the Spanish Civil War, about 120 plus of them, as well as a group of 50 French martyrs of the Nazis, including several young people. But then there's also Venerable Valera Parra. He was a parish priest who served principally in his little hometown in Spain, where he also died. So he died in 1889 at the age of 73, and he is known as the Cura of Ars of Spain. So he was somebody who gave his entire life to the priesthood and to the service of those under his care as a shepherd. So a miracle that took place in 2007 in Rhode Island was certified and taken before the Holy Father as part of this wider discussion of these various causes for beatification and canonization. It was affirmed, and so the announcement went out. And what this does is to essentially open the door. It clears the way for Father Valera's canonization, I should say, to be very specific, his beatification.
Right.
So Don Salvador Valera Parra will be beatified sometime in the near future. We don't have an exact date, but what I love about this story is that we had a miracle that took place in 2007, opening the door for a beatification of a priest in Spain who now will be even more of a role model for the faithful around the world, especially at a time when priests need so much support, encouragement, and love from us as faithful Catholics.
You know, this is tangential, but I'm really glad you brought that up. Between this miracle, but also the reality, you and I have talked about this in the past, dwindling vocations and seminaries anywhere from closing down to streamlining their operations. Can you talk about that reality, but also what we are seeing in terms of revitalization of the Catholic faith in the U.S.?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so Providence is clearly at work in this miracle because, as you note, yes, vocations are sort of down globally, but we are seeing a couple of really important signs of this renewal of the priesthood, of vocations, of the call to the religious life among young people who are being increasingly drawn to the Catholic faith. We saw very large numbers of young people coming into the church in this last Easter Vigil, throughout this whole of this last Easter season. And we are seeing increases in seminary classes across the United States and in different parts of the world. Obviously, a place like Africa and parts of Asia where we're seeing massive explosions in vocations of the priesthood. But in the United States, I think we are seeing this renewal. And part of it, I think, is coming from the fact that young people are being drawn to the faith. And here we have a miracle in the United States relating to a priest, as we were just saying, being approved by who? The first American Pope, first U.S.-born Pope. So
right.
There's a message here somewhere if we can open our eyes wide enough to see it.
I certainly believe so. And you know what? One of the other messages, which was another thing I was going to talk with you about today, is that as secularized and post-Christian as the United States is becoming, at the very least, there is a federal bill in conversation about not taxing Pope Leo.
That's right.
And preserving his citizenship. I want to say at the lowest level, this is reverence that's due to the office.
That's right. And it's a testament to a couple things. The first and most obvious is that here we have the first U.S.-born Pope, which means that he is a U.S. citizen. Now, to be very clear, Pope Leo has multiple citizenships. He is a U.S.-born citizen. He is also a naturalized Peruvian citizen by virtue, which is also required by Peruvian law, as I understand it, when he became a bishop there in 2014, 2015. And then, when he became an official of the Roman Curia, that basically he became a citizen of the Vatican City State, he also at that point received a Holy See passport. So at one point he would have had 3 passports, essentially at his disposal. But it does raise an interesting question about what is the status of his citizenship, not simply because he was elected Supreme Pontiff, but also because he is the supreme head of the Vatican City State, which makes him, essentially, as Holy Father, somebody who possesses, as the Vatican law itself stipulates very clearly, he wields the fullness of the power of government, including legislative, executive, and judicial powers of the Vatican City State and the Holy See, which makes him a head of state. Now, typically, according to the IRS law, you cannot necessarily hold or retain your citizenship under some of those circumstances. For example, a question of whether or not you are giving up your citizenship at the time that you might become the head of state. So it's a really interesting question, and the purpose of this bill that was just introduced by Representative Jeff Hurd, a Republican of Colorado, is that it ensures that any American, as his bill says, who answers the call to lead more than 1 billion Catholics worldwide can do so without risking his citizenship or facing unnecessary tax burdens.
Right. You know, I was just thinking that if Pope Leo XIV does not relinquish his American citizenship, would that mean that the IRS is privy to the finances of the Vatican, or at the lowest level, the finances of the Pope?
Well, I mean, that's obviously, as an American citizen, there's an expectation, as anyone would, who lives abroad, for example, that you do have a requirement to pay your income taxes. So U.S. citizens are subject, according to the IRS, to U.S. income tax, regardless of where they live or how they or where they earn their income. So you still have the same filing requirements.
Right.
Now, the other aspect, too, is that you can lose your citizenship under certain circumstances. One is committing an act of treason. Another is naturalization in a foreign state and accepting a position as a foreign head of state. But they have to be done, as the IRS stipulates, voluntarily, and also with the intention of relinquishing that U.S. nationality or citizenship. That's clearly not the case here. And I'm reminded a little bit of the fact that Pope Francis is in a slightly similar situation, being an Argentinian, that he actually renewed his Argentinian passport at one point during his pontificate. So there was clearly not an intent to give it up. And I mean, obviously cannot speak for Pope Leo, but I don't anticipate that he's giving up his citizenship. But he does, under these remarkable circumstances, now as head of state of the Vatican City State and the Holy See, he's in a very interesting potential legal situation. And this is what this bill is intended basically to make sure that his citizenship is safeguarded. And the other thing that is so interesting is the name of the bill itself. We can pick this up on the other side.
My guest is Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President, Editorial Director of EWTN News. We're talking about church news right now, and we are rounding off the question of whether Pope Leo XIV has to maintain his payments of taxes to the IRS. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.
Support for this Ave Maria radio program comes in part by the non-for-profit St. Anthony Services. Are you shopping for mortgage products, Catholic investing, Catholic health, real estate, or estate planning? StAnthonyServices.org can help you find a Catholic professional for these needs. They regularly connect faithful citizens with faith-based professionals that share our Christian values. More information at StAnthonyServices.org or 877-LIFE-US1.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marcus Peter, host of Ave Maria in the Afternoon and Unveiling the Covenants. Ave Maria Radio has been at the forefront of dialoguing faith at the intersection of all things pertaining to human flourishing. We need your help. Our infrastructure is in urgent need of updating. We want to ask you to support us in this summer campaign. Every gift, no matter how big or small, will be useful to bringing the gospel to the ends of the earth. Thank you. You are broadcasting hope with us.
Hi, I'm Father Chris Alar of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception. My new book, Understanding the Sacraments, unpacks the extraordinary gifts unique to the Catholic Church. Ever wonder why we baptize infants? Is confession in the Bible? And must wives be subordinate to their husbands? The answers to these more hot-button questions about the sacraments are on sale now from Marian Press at shopmercy.org. God bless you.
Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter, speaking with Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President, Editorial Director of EWTN News. So, Matthew, you were mentioning the name of the bill that, if passed, would allow for Pope Leo XIV to not have to pay taxes and yet maintain his American citizenship.
Yeah, that's right. So the bill itself that was introduced, as we were just saying, from Congressman Jeff Hurd from Colorado, it's the Holy Sovereignty Protection Act.
Are we anticipating future American popes?
And it says that it's to protect the U.S. citizenship of any American elected to serve as the Supreme Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. So this is a very specific bill. Yeah. It, as his own press release from Congressman Hurd says, the bill prohibits the revocation of citizenship during a papal tenure and exempts the individual from U.S. tax obligations while serving as pope, recognizing his unique role as both the religious leader and head of state. Now, looking back at recent papal history, it does raise the interesting question.
Oh, yes. Go ahead,
where
please.
I'm going.
Yep.
Should he resign the papacy? We'll have to see if there's some sort of a additional codfication that takes place.
That's right. An amendment to
yep. Right, that if that happens, I don't anticipate it. And I think that Pope Leo's, we pray, will be serving for a very, very long time.
Yep.
But what I love about this, too, is that it stipulates, again, while serving as Pope. So essentially it creates a tax-exempt status for whoever this American citizen is elected Pope, and really wants to protect them from U.S. tax obligations and then prohibit the revocation of citizenship. So it's a wonderful gesture. I have no idea if this bill's going to, or what shape it'll be in by the time it actually gets out of committee and onto the floor, and ultimately for the Senate. But I think it's an interesting gesture, but it's also, when we started this conversation about this particular story, the uniqueness of this historical moment, not just in the life of the church, but also in the life of the United States, and the uniqueness of this moment, but also the remarkable moment that we're living of having an American Pope, but somebody who really is a gift to the whole of the world.
Yep. Yep, he truly is a very unique character, given his extremely diverse experience and background. And praise the Lord for the gift that he is. And one of the ways in which I've been thankful, too, was that the customary call that he, not customary, but at least this gesture, this symbolic gesture, of calling Buzz Aldrin on the anniversary of Apollo 11th landing on the moon.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the sort of personal interests on the Pope's part. And what I mean by that is that here he was at this visit to the Vatican Observatory. He's already met with many of the astronomers and had some pretty remarkable things to talk about in terms of the cosmos and the created order. And here he was, just a few days ago, marking the 56th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. Now, that's not a particularly significant anniversary in that sense. It's 56 years ago. But he's marking that anniversary, and he visited the Vatican Observatory at Castel Gandolfo, and it's a beautiful facility there, and then made the decision on July 20th, which is exactly the anniversary date, to call U.S. astronaut Buzz Aldrin. He's 95 years old and is the last surviving Apollo 11 crew member.
Right.
And it was this reminiscing on the 1969 moon landing, and then both of them talking about, as they described it, the mystery, greatness, and fragility of God's creation.
Right.
And so we're seeing that Pope Leo has a great interest in science. He is, after all, a trained mathematician.
Yep.
So there's that dimension to it. But I think he's also really speaking to the wonder of the created order and trying to recapture a sense of awe at a time when so much of our lives is spent looking down at our phones and missing the beauty of creation.
Right. And like you mentioned, between personal preference, but his preferences are also demonstrative of those areas he believes are crucial to human flourishing, that man can look to the stars and understand that he has a place in exercising dominion even over the cosmos outside of the Earth.
That's right. And the role also of astronomers and mathematicians, but in particular astronomers. You know, I mentioned that he met with various young astronomers. In this case, it was they were participants at the Vatican Observatory Summer School. And he talked about the fact that what they're working on, what they're studying, that they should not forget that what they do is meant to benefit everyone. So he called on them to be generous in sharing what they learned and their experiences. And I think that's a really great message. But he also, and here's where his interest in science comes in, because he was talking about the fact that for the first time we can observe, he said, the atmosphere of exoplanets. That raises the possibility then where life may be developing, and we can study the nebulae where the planetary systems themselves are forming. In other words, tracing, as he put it, the ancient light of distant galaxies, which speaks of the very beginning of our universe. So that not only is he talking about hard mathematics.
He's speaking about redshift.
He's talking about redshift, and he's talking also about deep cosmology.
Right.
On the origins of the universe, which is one of those great questions that we face in the intersection of faith and reason. And so I think this is a little bit of an indicator, too, that I think we're going to see more from him on that, in exactly the same way that he has spoken on multiple occasions on the whole subject of artificial intelligence and the role of new technologies in our lives.
Yep. And what a breath of fresh air to a pope who's very serious about engaging the natural sciences, and as a theological response even to the rising wave of new atheism. And to that end, I guess I should ask if Neil deGrasse Tyson will take a page out of his book.
I don't feel that I would be comfortable commenting. So.
Okay, so
but there's one other small thing too, that we see the connection between Leo the 14th and Leo the 13th.
Yep.
Because obviously Leo the 13th refounded the Great Vatican Observatory all the way back in 1891, the same year that he promulgated Rerum Novarum, the great encyclical on Catholic social teaching. So we keep seeing these very interesting connections between Leo the 14th and Leo the 13th.
Yep.
whose name he chose precisely because he wants to make that direct connection. So I think this is going to be another area where the fascination of Leo XIII with science, he's the first pope, after all, to, I believe, who's on actual film, moving pictures. It's one of my favorite little video clips from the past of Leo XIII. He's very frail, very old, but you could see the spirit in him in that clip. So we're seeing, again, this rich connection of continuity under Pope Leo.
Yeah. We're running out of time, truly. About a minute left, and the Boko Haram situation with the Nigerian priests.
That's right. So a Nigerian priest, Father Alphonsus Afina, was kidnapped by Boko Haram, and for those who may not be familiar with them, they are an Islamist terrorist group that's very active in Nigeria and across parts of certainly sub-Saharan Africa. And beyond. He was captured in the Nigerian state of Borno. He was held captive and ultimately was released. Now, this is a priest who also has spent some time of service here in the United States in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I'm not making light of this. Somebody who's gone from Nigeria to serve in Alaska, just the winters alone, tell you something about his desire to serve.
Right.
But it's a reminder, too, of the dire threats facing Catholics, facing other Christians in Nigeria at a time when Islamists, including Boko Haram, including the ISIS factions in Africa, are on the march. And the State Department itself, I know, is very concerned about the state of Nigeria, and we all should be.
Yep. Matthew, truly, thank you very much for making the time.
A great discussion today, so God bless.
God bless you. My guest has been Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President, Editorial Director of EWTN News. A lot of happy news and news of great significance with Pope Leo XIV. But do pray for Nigeria, the attacks by Boko Haram. Our brothers and sisters need our prayers. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.
Hi, this is Ed Bahura with Sylvan Learning Centers. This is one of our many 5-star Google reviews.
I would like to take the time to thank all of the staff at Sylvan for helping my daughter achieve her goal of attending the University of Michigan Ann Arbor with a full scholarship. My daughter has been able to maintain all A's in math and increased her SAT score by 200 points as a result of attending Sylvan.
To learn more, call 1-800-EDUCATE or visit sylvanlearning.com.
Honey, did you ever call Mighty Dog Roofing of Ann Arbor for that free roof inspection?
I knew I forgot something.
Roof leaks can cause mold buildup or even roof collapse. Protect your family today by calling local Catholics Dan and Mary Flanagan at Mighty Dog Roofing for a free inspection of your roof, siding, or windows. Mighty Dog Roofing, 734-224-4916. That's 734-224-4916.
Strained or broken relationships are a given in most of our lives. Friends fall away, siblings drift apart, children sever ties with their parents, and despite our best efforts, these painful fissures are difficult to mend. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray. If you want to learn how to communicate better with the difficult people in your life and be a more easygoing, more forgiving person, check out my book, How to Get Along with Almost Everybody. Check it out, and all my other books on the store page at AveMariaRadio.net. That's AveMariaRadio.net.
Hello, Steve Ray here from Footprints of God Pilgrimages. Want to celebrate some amazing anniversaries this year in France? We'll visit Normandy Beach to celebrate our heroic military for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Also, the 100th anniversary of the canonization of St. Therese of Lisieux. Join us this October for our Saints and Shrines of France and a visit to the newly renovated Notre Dame Cathedral.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
Being pro-life usually is associated with living a life of faith. And the reasons for this are not solely doctrinal, but are also what one might call experiential. Even with the marvels of modern ultrasound, the unborn child cannot be directly seen or touched. And yet, based on various signs and wonders, the pro-life person affirms and loves this hidden, shadowy reality. While the immediate reality is not there, still one who is awake to signs of the child's presence discards unbelief and believes. The life of faith requires a similar habit of being, opening oneself to the signs and wonders surrounding us every day, and from these signs and wonders to affirm that He is, just as the unborn child cries to us, I am. GuadalupeWorkers.org.
St. Therese once told her sister Celine that when we trust ourselves and not God, our soul becomes barren and incapable of virtue. Her remedy? External works of charity. We all try to do it on our own sometimes without asking for God's help. At St. Paul Evangelization, we suggest sharing the gospel with someone who needs it. Check out streetevangelization.com to find a team near you where you can share the love of Jesus. If there isn't one in your area yet, perhaps God is calling you to start a team in your city. To learn more, visit streetevangelization.com.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I am blessed to be joined by a dear friend, Steve Ray, who's no stranger to this program, prolific author, apologist, pilgrimage leader, although he leads pilgrimages not just to give you an encounter of the place, but also to form your souls in the truth of God as found in those geographical locations. Steve, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Well, thank you, Marcus. I'm doing just fine, thank you. And we just finished up 3 very successful and exciting pilgrimages in April to Poland, in May to Italy for the Jubilee year, and then our Danube River cruise in June, which was our 20th anniversary celebration. Mm-hmm. And, that was really something because John Hale, who's the president of Corporate Travel, and we've worked together for 20 years. And so he ended up showing up there and completely surprised me. He had rented the oldest restaurant in Europe. It's been since 800, and they all had placards with my picture on it. And all of the 150 on our cruise there were in on the surprise and didn't let me know. And I walked into this courtyard in Salzburg, and there they all were singing, "He's a Jolly Good Fellow." And John Hale appears. He flew over there just for that event, and it was really quite a surprise. So it's been 20 years. We've had a great bunch of trips so far this year, and we've got 2 more coming up. And I know that's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, we have France. That's in October, but the one that I'm really excited about.
Wait, let me tell everyone. Please.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry, I know you're excited, but ever since I heard, I've been exploding. So, all of our listeners, I'm really excited to tell everyone that Steve Ray is finally bringing trips to the blessed Holy Land to form our souls in the land where Jesus himself walked.
Absolutely. It's been 2 years now, Marcus, and it's time to go back. Things are calming down over there, and I think that, they're slowing down, and it's perfectly safe. If I took you there right now, we could go to Bethlehem and go into the Church of Nativity. We could go into the Holy Sepulchre. I could take you up to Nazareth, to the Church of the Annunciation. We could go on the Sea of Galilee. We could do all of those things, and nobody would even know anything had happened. There's only one big difference, though, Marcus, is there's no crowds and there's no lines.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing because sometimes we can wait 3 hours in line in Bethlehem to get down to see the place of Jesus' birth, and then we're just rushed. You get the bum rush, touch it, go. It's really crowded. But boy, when we go in December, we're going to have the whole place to ourselves. People will be able to stay down there and pray. And when we go to the Holy Sepulchre, it's the same. We'll be able to go into the tomb, and we won't be rushed out in 20 seconds. And it's going to be very nice. And I know people are concerned about the safety issues, but, I have to make this comment that things are slowing down over there. And what's happening there now, there was a month or so ago, there were missiles from Iran, and that was very concerning. I would never have gone under a situation like that. But we have That's right now in Israel. If you were in Jerusalem or Bethlehem or Nazareth, you would not even know anything's going on, because still the things that are happening are way down south in Gaza, which would have no impact on us whatsoever.
Right.
And we're going to have a great time. And plus, I have the very best of the services and guides Israel's a small country. And they know the government people. They know the people in the military.
Right.
And if there was ever a problem, we'd be the first ones to know. They've got their thumb on the pulse. We would be moved to a safe area. But that's not going to happen. We're quite confident that things are going to go well. And I know there's already people going back. I heard there was 4,000 tourists there last week. And we already have on our bus 19 people registered to go. So, we're already almost halfway there, 19 people. And it's going to be a small, intimate group, people who are ready to go and who say, well, I'll trust you. We're going to go. You know what you're doing. You've been there over 200 times. We trust you. We'll go with you. And you're going to see the Holy Land from a unique perspective, because we'll have it all to ourselves.
I'm really glad that you mentioned all of that, because those were going to be some of the natures of my questions. It's right that many people have been concerned about their safety with regard to that trip, but as you've mentioned to me in private but also in public, there are routes that are taken in this pilgrimage that are well away from the conflict. And so not only is safety assured, these are areas that we can truly immerse in the pilgrimage experience without being hit with the reality of the conflict.
Right, and I would never take people into harm's way.
Right.
I know the land like I know my own backyard, having been there 200 times. And, we've gone through cycles like this with war. There was the first Intifada and the second Intifada. And our folks there on the ground, they know the land and they know where to go and where not to go. And we would never take anyone into harm's way. Another thing, Marcus, that we want to consider very seriously is that the Christians over there have suffered for 2 years, because 75% of the Christians in the Holy Land make their living off of tourism, pilgrims coming, souvenirs, services, restaurants, and now they're all empty. And these Christian friends of ours, and they're all Palestinian Christians, by the way, they're all desperate to get us back. And I want to go back, if nothing else, just to give them a shot in the arm. It'll be like a transfusion for them. And when we go there, they're going to hoop and holler. They're going to be hugging us, and so happy that we're back. And we're going to give some lifeblood back to these folks. And hopefully, when people see us go and how successful it is and safe it is, other pilgrimages are going to start piling up again. And by early middle next year, I think that Americans will be rushing back to the Holy Land, which is why it's a good idea to come with me in December, because we'll still be there when there's very seldom anybody there. For example, Marcus, sometimes at Beatitudes, there's 50 buses parked there.
Uh-huh.
And if you think of 40 to 50 people on a bus, multiply that out. I'm not so good at math. You're probably better than I am. But figure 50 buses in the parking lot at Beatitudes, some even parked out on the driveway coming in. And imagine how crowded that is. And when we go, we'll probably be the only bus there this time in December, maybe a couple others. But there are people going back, by the way. A lot of people like Indonesians and Chinese. There's a lot of people going back to the Holy Land even now. All through this, there have been. And
are these
Americans,
Indonesian and Chinese Christians?
Yes, Catholics. Wow. And some of the Chinese are also, some of them are just cultural. The Chinese, a lot of them are just cultural tourists. But people are there, and they're coming back. And there's 4,000 tourists there last week. And we're going to add to that in December, and we're really excited about it because it's been 2 years. We had 2 years we couldn't go because of COVID, and then there was a good year. We took a lot of groups there during that year between COVID and the war starting. But now the war is playing itself out, and there's still skirmishes here and there, but they're not in areas where we're going to be. So a lot of people, they said, Steve, if you go, we'll trust you. There's a lot of people out there I know right now, Marcus, saying, you're absolutely crazy. You are absolutely insane. But I know there's a lot of other people saying, no, we know the reality on the ground, and Steve knows what he's doing, and we're going to trust, and we're going to go, and it'll be a great success. We'll put up a movie every day. People can join us by movie and see how nicely it's going.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And One of the things, Steve, if you don't mind me, so we have about a minute in this segment, and we'll continue on the other side, but one of the things I want to talk about is, can you address the lie that the Catholics in that area are anti-Israel or they're supporting Hamas? The truth of the matter is, not only are they peaceable, they want peaceful pilgrimages to take place.
Yes. The Christians I know there are Palestinian Christians, and they despise Hamas. They're not supporting Hamas.
Right.
And they like the government of Israel, because before that happened, they now have courts, they have a lot of things, roads and things they didn't have before. And like my friend Amr says, he says at least now we, as Christians, we have justice. There's laws, and it's not perfect under Israel. But it's the only country in the Middle East that has freedom of religion. There are churches there. There are mosques there. There are synagogues there. There's a freedom of religion. We hear about, I'll hear the music. We'll catch it on the way back.
Yep. My guest is Steve Ray, and he's a pilgrimage leader, prolific author, and the reason why we're speaking is Steve is able to, and safely so no less, to bring groups in pilgrimages to the Holy Land once again. And we're talking about the socio-political reality, sure, but also primarily the theological significance of the Holy Land and why it matters. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.
Ave Maria School of Law is the Roman Catholic law school in the United States. Consistently ranked in the Princeton Review as one of the best and most conservative law schools, as well as pre-law's most devout law school. Ave Maria School of Law provides a traditional legal education while emphasizing how the law intersects with the Catholic intellectual tradition and natural law philosophy. Ave Maria School of Law, unabashedly Catholic, consistently excellent. For more information, visit avemarialaw.edu.
The Sistine Chapel Choir is coming back to Detroit on September 4th. Members of the Sistine Chapel Choir are returning to Detroit together with Dr. Elizabeth Lev to present the sights and sounds of Michelangelo's masterpiece. A quintet of our new Pope's Choir, Sixtini Cantoris, will bring the music of the world's oldest and finest choir from the Vatican to the St. John's Resort in the exquisite Monarch Ballroom for an evening full of unforgettable music. As you experience the timeless voices of members of the Sistine Chapel Choir, you will be inspired by sacred art historian Dr. Elizabeth Lev, who will present the captivating history and imagery of the chapel, a celebration of sacred tradition, artistic genius, and the eternal harmony between faith and culture. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you won't want to miss. Tickets are limited and are on sale now. Visit our website, www.ctscentral.net, to purchase your tickets and secure your spot today.
Ave Maria in the Afternoon is underwritten by the following nonprofit organization: Real Estate for Life. Buying or selling your home or business property? Real Estate for Life can connect you with one of 1,400 pro-life real estate agents around the world. When Real Estate for Life receives a referral fee, they donate 70% to Ave Maria Radio and Human Life International. More information at realestateforlife.org or 877-LIFE-US1. That's realestateforlife.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marcus Peter. Ave Maria Radio spearheads the proclamation of the gospel into all areas of society and culture. And so we want to invite you to think about what Catholic radio means for you. Because our towers and our equipment need updating. And we want to ask you to think about the impact of Catholic radio and how your donations can help continue the propagation of the gospel for the salvation of souls to all who hear it. Thank you for joining us on this wondrous mission.
You like pizza? Me too. And for that, we can thank our friend, Tom Monahan. First, he starts with $900 and opens one pizza shop. Then it's worldwide, thousands of shops. But all this was just a warm-up for his greatest achievement yet. He built a university.
God inspired Tom to build up generations of men and women who have a hunger to reach the world for Christ. This place is Ave Maria University.
Visit avemaria.edu to see what's next.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity Health Share is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
When the need for senior care arises, home is where the heart is. Visiting Angels provides home care for mom or dad up to 24 hours per day, including personal care, meals, and light housework. You may select your professional caregiver with Visiting Angels. More information at visitingangels.com or at 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE. Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm speaking with Steve Ray, prolific pilgrimage leader who is now bringing groups to the Holy Land once again. So unless someone's been living under a rock, Steve, I think everyone knows the reason why trips to the Holy Land for a while there dried up. Would you please just help us revisit, what happened on October the 7th, but what Israel is looking like now, especially these pilgrimage sites and routes?
We were in Israel with two buses in September and October of 2023. We had a two-bus group because people were just wanting to get back after COVID, and we took them all to the Holy Land, and then they went home, and another group of two buses came, and we took them all the way through, and we flew home on October 5 of 2023. You know what happened on October 7th.
Yep. We
got out of there, we came home, and we heard that the roof blew off. And even if we had been there, I have to say, Marcus, that it was all down in Gaza. That was all down along Gaza, which is by Egypt.
Yep.
And that it had nothing to do where we were, but because it was a war starting down there, nobody knew how it was going to expand, and so everybody left. Well, we got home 2 days before that happened, and we've been home ever since, except for other trips like to France and Italy and St. Paul cruises and things. But what happened was some of the Hamas, and they are registered as terrorists, and they certainly are. They came across, and they were killing and raping and torturing, and they took hostages, which they still have. And that started a war because Israel can't allow that to happen. And then Hezbollah in the north got involved in Iran. But Israel it's been amazing what they've done. And they have really defeated all those forces. And so the way it is now with Trump coming in and supporting them, they were able to vanquish pretty much all of those enemy neighbors. But, it's never when you have neighbors like that in your neighborhood, it's always a little bit rough to have rough neighbors. But the fact is that if you wait for Israel to be completely free and of any threats or warnings, and if you were waiting for all of their neighbors to be flying over, dropping rose petals on Jerusalem, you'll never go. It's been that way ever since the beginning. And people have said, well, you know what? I'm going to go. I feel, to be honest with you, far safer in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Nazareth than I do in, say, for example, San Francisco or Los Angeles or Seattle or even Detroit sometimes. I mean, I feel much safer there. And I know that area like my backyard. So we're looking forward to going back. I want to kind of set the stage for other groups to go because the Christians over there are desperate to have us come back. What's happening, Marcus, is they're ended up immigrating. They're leaving the Holy Land because it is difficult for them to live there. And if you think about the fact that Nazareth used to be almost 100% Christian, and now it's down to about 35%. The rest are Muslims. And Christians are leaving because it's difficult for them. This whole 2-year period shows how difficult it is.
Right.
And if you have your kids there, you want to give them opportunities. And you can't, there's little opportunities in the Holy Land right now when things like this are going on. So they immigrate. They leave and they go to Australia. They come to the United States. I think I've heard that there are more Nazarenes living in Flint, Michigan right now than there are Nazarene Christians living in Nazareth.
Wow.
Because they've left and moved out. And so a lot of my friends, and I'll just tell you this, I'm not boasting because a friend of mine donated it, but we just sent $2,000 to the Christians in Gaza. There's only a few, 200 and some left, and we sent money to them, and I'm supporting several families in Jerusalem and Bethlehem. We send them money almost every month, and because they have a goal. They've told us to me right to my face, we are not going to leave. We want our kids to remain here in the land. It's our mission. Mm-hmm. It is our mission to keep Christians in the Holy Land. Right. Because if the Christians leave, and by the way, there's only 1.5% now are Christians in the Holy Land. That's 1.5% of the population of the Holy Land is Christian now. And if they all leave, those churches and holy sites that we visit now and have Mass at will become museums under Israel, or they would become mosques under Islam.
Wow.
So, and that's happening all over the world. Islam is buying up churches and turning them into mosques. Look in Turkey, we take our groups to Hagia Sophia when we do our St. Paul cruise. And the great Hagia Sophia, which was the largest and most beautiful church in Christendom for 1,000 years before St. Peter's, is now a mosque. And you have to take your shoes off. Women have to cover themselves. And they've covered up all of the beautiful images of Mary and Jesus because they won't have images. And they've turned that beautiful church into a mosque. And if we do not support the Christians in the Holy Land, and they are all forced to leave eventually, the same thing will happen there. We will take our kids to see, this used to be the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Now it's a mosque or it's a museum. And people say, that's impossible. That could never happen. Well, take a look at Turkey. Turkey used to be the capital of the world Christendom. And now it's 99% Muslim, and all the churches, not all of them, but many of the churches have turned into mosques. So this is one of our goals when we go back, Marcus, is to support the Christians and to help keep them there, and to see when you got 1.5% are Christians, when you've got 2 million, say, or 4 million, it was before this war started, 4 million Christians a year, tourists a year. All of a sudden, their numbers swell, and now there's not just 1.5% that are Christian there. Now it's 4 or 5% because all of us are there with them. And so we need to get back there and help them.
I'm really glad you mentioned all of that, Steve, because so we've got this true historical reality that's happening. I also want to ask you, you're seeing this as well, even amongst Catholics, a rising tide of almost a repudiation of the land of Israel. Now that we have the Catholic Church, now that we have Christ, we no longer need to remember that. Please speak to why that's biblically wrong, but also the benefit of reverencing the land that Jesus walked on.
First of all, reverencing the land he walked on, we call it Holy Land. Mm-hmm. Remember when Moses was at Mount Sinai and he saw the burning bush and he stopped to look at it, and a voice came out of the bush. It happened to be God. And he said, "Take your sandals off. You're standing on holy ground." And Moses said, "What do you mean holy ground? This is the same dirt and rocks I stood on yesterday, and it wasn't holy ground, and it doesn't look to me any different now. So what do I have to take my sandals off for?" He didn't say that, but that's what I would have probably said. And the reason is because God touched down. Yeah. God was present. And when God is present, he changes things. It becomes holy, sanctified. And I call places like Rome or Fatima or Lourdes, when we take our groups there, that is sacred sites. But I only call the land of Israel and the surrounding areas, that is holy ground. Why? Because God actually walked with his own feet on that land. He touched down, and he touches things, he changes them. And when people walk in that land, I'll tell you, Marcus, they're not the same. We've had miracles happen with our groups. We've had conversions take place. We've had tremendous interior conversions, people crying, just realizing where they are. A man that went into the church in Capernaum where Jesus said, "Eat my flesh and drink my blood." That's where he said that. A man said to me, he said, "Steve, I want you to know I'm a reluctant pilgrim. I don't really want to be here on this trip." He said, my wife went fishing with me for 2 weeks last year, and this is my part of the bargain. I had to come with her as a trade-off. When we came out the second day from the church of Capernaum, he had tears running down his eyes, and he said, Steve, I'm not a reluctant pilgrim anymore because I just realized where I am. And he cried his way through the rest of the trip. This is the kind of impact it has on people. The Bible comes alive to them. The Mass comes alive. They've walked where Jesus walked and where Mary walked. And we pray every mystery of the Rosary where it happened. Imagine going back home and praying the Rosary and remember, oh, I was there. Oh, I was there. And you can place yourself back in that setting. So this is one of the beauties of. Now, you asked about Israel. I just talked about holy ground, but back about Israel. God has a plan for Israel. If we say that he no longer has a plan for Israel, we have to remember that even Paul said that the callings, the gifts and callings of God are irrevocable. When God made a promise to Abraham, it was, yes, fulfilled in the church with Jesus and the church. But God also, it's a mystery. He still has a mission with Israel, and all of Israel in the end will be saved. We'll see that happen. And for anybody to just dismiss the Jews today, I think is a big mistake. But also to the land of Israel, you can view it, if nothing else, they're an ally of ours. They're the only country in the Middle East that's a democracy. They're the only country in the Middle East where there's freedom of religion. There's the only one in the Middle East where Christians are welcome. And they can function and they can have their churches. So, and churches are being built there even now. So Israel, even if nothing else, we look at them as a political ally in a very hostile part of the world. But as far as the Jews go, it's a mystery of what God is doing and how he's dealing with them. But to just dismiss Israel as unimportant or the enemies of Christians is not a good position to take, and it's certainly not the position the church has taken.
Yep, exactly. And so it's crucial. In fact, I argue that if we can make it, all of us ought to have some appreciation of the Holy Land, or at least go to the Holy Land once if we are able to. So, Steve, I want to say thank you so much for making the time to share all this with us.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for giving me a pulpit to do it. I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for letting me share this here, both to help promote our pilgrimage, but also to understand a little bit about the land and the Christians over there.
Well, my joy, truly. I've been talking with Steve Ray, who is a prolific pilgrimage leader, and like I've been mentioning, and as Steve has been mentioning, he will be taking trips to the Holy Land once again, which is a joyous blessing. We thank the Lord for the restoration of this particular aspect of his pilgrimage work. Please do consider being a part of these trips. Please do appreciate the gift of the Holy Land where our Lord and Savior walked, and let this, the fifth gospel, make the scriptures come alive as never before in your life for conversion and salvation. Thank you for joining us. I'm Marcus Peter.